Welcome to the Call Dad podcast with your host, Call Dad CEO and visionary Matt Posda. Featuring this week's special guest, Head of Operations, Derik Wolf.
All right, so I've got Derik Wolf back in the house. How you doing, Mr. Derik?
I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome. Well, we were talking about before we got started, the good thing is, for those out there, we've got your background out here. If any of you want to hear who Derik is, what he does, how he got into the trades, all that fun stuff, please go back and listen to Derik's first episode. Because again, that's a banger there that gives a lot of background on what motivates you and why you're here and what you're trying to achieve. So I think that's a cool one. Go back and listen if you have not. Today, I would like to get in something that's become more and more important to us as an organization, and actually has its own pillar, believe it or not, in Cultivate Curiosity, which is training. Mm-hmm. So let me just start with, and we talked about this also in the last one a little bit with you and your personal motivation to train yourself.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, why is training important to you?
Well, I think, I can't remember verbatim what we talked about in the beginning, the first one, but training to me is important because it changed my career. Yeah. It gave me a path and a place to understand a process. I'm more process oriented, so if I know the process, I can follow the process, and if the process works, it's a benefit to me and whoever I'm using the process with. Yeah. So that's why I'm passionate and enjoy the part where we're teaching. Like, this training portion of me is extremely fun. Like, it's probably my most favorite day of the week at this point.
Yeah. So let me ask, because we use this analogy, and we even used it in the last company meeting with like Steph Curry and stuff like that. Like, was training something that you always enjoyed as a person?
No.
Or, okay.
No, I hated being on the other side. Yeah. At the time, being younger and having to be the one to get up and role play in front of the class. Yeah. Heck no. Yeah. I did not like that at all. Now I enjoy it, and I'll role play with all these guys. Some of it's age, and I think, and comfortability. But as the person on the other side getting the training and having to get up and role play, it's not as much fun to get up in front of your classmates when everyone knows exactly what you're supposed to say and do. Yeah. It's probably,
and then you've got the pressure of actually
making sure you do everything you're supposed to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's easy for the instructor to tell you what to do, and everyone sits back and leans back in their chair, and they're like, "Oh, you missed that part," and then you're sitting up there with your heart beating like.
Correct. Yeah, it's weird, but I can do it now in front of these guys, and it doesn't affect me in any way.
Yeah. So why do you think that changed?
Part of it's a lot of the same steps I've been doing my whole career. So the practice probably no different than the Steph Curry analogy. You shoot 500 shots a day. When you go to shoot 17 that's shooting a game, it doesn't feel, there's no nerves to it. You just do it because it's muscle memory.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with running. You've got, when's your 50K?
It was this past Saturday. I didn't do it.
You didn't do it. But going through that whole process of training.
Until I pulled something in my leg in Orlando on Saturday. I was running with Matt on Tuesday, and I had to stop after 3. Like, it started shooting sharp pains down the back of my calf and into my foot. So I quit running and told him just to go on. I'll walk back to the hotel.
Yeah. But you took that approach. You took that training approach to running. I mean, again, the amount of energy and effort and everything that you put into the running side.
It's probably one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
Is to force yourself to run. Because people are like, how do you like running? People say they love running. You don't start out loving running. Nobody's
people
just
that say that they love running are.
I love running now.
Well, I do, but I still hate it.
I don't really hate it.
You don't? See, I want it, but there's always that first mile where you're like, oh.
I think I get bored with it now more than anything.
Because you're running so far.
Running so much,
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry. I didn't mean to get into the whole running thing. But the point is, back to training, like repetition and muscle memory matters, right?
Yeah. You just start out doing this much. That's what I try to tell the guys. Like, the customer don't know what you're supposed to say, right? So just start. Start practicing it. Yeah. Stand in front of the mirror. Practice it. Just start, you know?
Yeah.
continuing to put it in the back burner and not ever work on it is not going to work. You got to just start.
Yeah.
They're not going to know if you fumble. Like, just do your best to start.
Yeah. And so, all right, so we at Call Dad, historically, what we had viewed in terms of training was that we were using a third-party resource that would come in, what was it, once a month? Or
No, every
twice,
other
every
twice
other
a
week.
month.
Yeah, so, but one would be playbook specific and one would be
training, technical.
Yeah. And that was kind of how we viewed Now, obviously, we did safety and OSHA and some of the other training that we sprinkled in there.
Correct.
But that was the gist of what we were doing from a training perspective.
Yes.
And the problem that we found with that was back to some of that remote aspect.
It makes it difficult.
Sorry. As well as just understanding the playbook, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of recognize that there's, I don't want to say a better way, but there's got to be some way that we can do this that gets people more experienced, but also more ingrained into the process, and then actually provides true training.
Yeah, get them more involved in the process of the learning side.
Yeah. So what did you do? I know that you've kind of completely revamped the training program. What have you done? Why have you done it? What's your thoughts on structure? All that type of stuff.
Well, we're still doing right now the 2 Tuesdays a month, but every Thursday now I'm getting our 2 closest markets together. So like I did Raleigh and Winston, I did Hickory and Charlotte. Tomorrow I'll do Columbia and Charleston. And then Asheville I'll do next week, and then it'll start over. So every Thursday I'm going to the location, spending 4 hours with the technicians doing literally one-on-one group training. Max room right now is 20 probably, or roughly. So, and we're doing a lot of role playing. We're getting through the playbook. We're spending a lot of time literally just diving through each section and teaching them why it's important, why we do it, and teach them to be educators.
Yeah. All right. So walk me through a normal Thursday. Well, I guess an unnormal Thursday, a training Thursday. So you're showing up with playbook and you're walking them through playbook, and then you're role playing sections, or how are you actually doing the process now?
So we go through sections, stop, role play those sections, and what I tell them is I encourage you guys to volunteer to role play, because the farther we go, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
And so you'll get some guys that there's still guys that's like their scariest thing in the world is to get up and have to do that. And unfortunately, those guys are the ones that end up going last, and they have to do pretty much the whole playbook.
Yeah.
So they get broken in really well at the end. I encourage you to raise your hand first.
So is this a warning?
Everybody role plays.
Is this a warning to those listening that the longer you wait?
Unfortunately, by the time this comes out, everyone will have had their submerged training. And then we'll be going through next cycle of rotations. But
what has been, would you say, the most difficult process or situation of getting this rolled out?
I don't think there has really been difficult.
So have you had coaxing of people to volunteer? Has that been a problem? Have you noticed people, once the day goes on, get more willing? Like what?
Yeah. So I think they're nervous almost. I haven't seen hardly anybody that's not semi-nervous about getting up and doing it. And they all do it. I haven't had anybody that refused to role play or anything like that. So the rooms are pretty light-hearted, and they have a good time. I've got a lot of guys that's been taking notes, and they're learning from some of the tips of what I did when I was in the field and how I was successful at following a process. But the biggest thing for me is I struggle with them, and I learned from when I was younger is I like to spend people's money. I would judge someone. I would be panicking to go in there and tell them that it was going to be an expensive repair because I was spending their money, or I used my life situations to determine their spending habits or what they would want.
Yeah.
And what I learned is it's my job, regardless of the situation, to educate a homeowner on their needs or what I recommend or what I see.
Yeah.
Right. It's no different. What I tell them is, if you went to the doctor because your chest was hurting and they said that you had a stent, you need a stent in your heart, but they did blood work and knew you had cancer but didn't tell you, and you died 30 days later because the cancer. But because you didn't come in for cancer, you didn't tell him, the doctor didn't tell you about the cancer.
Yeah.
That's not fair to a homeowner for you to go in and find out that they need a bunch of stuff, or there's things that you notice but you're scared to tell them. It's your job to educate them and let them know, hey, this is here.
Yeah.
And it's my job to tell you that this is here. It's not going to affect your system running today, but it is something that could cause you problems in the future.
Yeah.
And let the customer decide if they want to repair it or not. Let the customer decide what they want to do for their home. It's your job to educate them.
So if you're listening to this and you're in Call Dad U right now, or you haven't been in the field, or you haven't been through Derik's program yet, I want to be clear. When he says spending the customer's money, what a lot of techs do early on in their career is they've got this, I don't know, is mentality the right word? But they've got this.
I would say that I want to get out as the least amount of money for this customer as possible, because I think typically they're in a servant mindset, servant heart. That's why they want to do this trade. They want to learn a trade to help people.
Yeah. And
so to them, not educating them is helping them, when it's actually the opposite. It can hurt them in the long run because you're not educating them. It's
you
your
think
job
giving
to educate them.
The quickest and shortest workaround solution for the least amount of money
is the right way
to do it.
Correct.
So when you say I'm spending the customer's money, meaning that I'm presenting based on what I think the customer wants if I were the customer.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And the reality,
what would I do? Which is not necessarily the right way, because you also have the knowledge to come back and fix it if something else happens.
Yeah.
They don't have that option. So
it's such a weird thing, because I've thought about this a lot, right? Where it's like a lot of companies, and I'm not saying that this hasn't been uttered here or stated here, or that people don't say it, but it's like, treat the customer's home as if it's your own, right? Like, dude, I don't know about you, but like, you're probably not the same in this way. But like, the amount of duct tapes and workarounds and stuff that I'll do in my own home, because
it's not
it's my
what
own.
I would do to somebody else's home. Correct.
Because the reality is like, you've got a skill set that can deal with it. Because you're there and you live there, and you know what you've duct taped, and you know what you've glued, and you know what's broken and what's not right and all that. But if you took that same logic and applied it to a customer,
it's not fair to them.
It's not fair to them, because they don't have that skill set and they don't have that knowledge.
Or they wouldn't be calling you in the first place.
And they're not looking to have it go down at 9 o'clock on a Friday night when they've got parents in town or kids or whatever it may be, right?
They're hoping for that thing to last forever. I mean, anybody with an investment like that, your car, you want it to last forever, or at least until you decide to upgrade your home, your things. You don't want them to break, right? So you want to be educated enough to make an informed decision about your own home. Yeah.
I haven't come up with the best way to frame that yet, but we need to come up with ways. Don't treat it as if it's your own home.
Treat it as if it's your grandma's home. I mean, Like, what would you do for your grandma? You would tell her everything that needed to be fixed, and you would fix it for her.
Correct.
You might not charge her, but you would fix it for your grandma. You should treat every homeowner like they're your grandparents. Like, you want the best for them, and you're giving them the most educated information that you can for them to make the most educated decision for their home.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've probably seen that way more than I have in your experience. But being that is probably one of the most common tech mentalities when you're first learning the trade, how do you break through that? Like, I
think the biggest thing for me is going through a lot of companies. Not a lot of companies, but the companies that I've worked for and been around, is the tech's mindset is that they want me to sell something. They want me to sell something. That's why they put these KPI numbers up there. That's why they want me to look at this, hit this certain ticket number and all this stuff. And that's not necessarily the case. We do want you to perform at a certain level. But what we really want you to do is not be salespeople. I'm not asking any of these technicians to be salespeople, because they're not. Their mentality's not meant. Most of them are not meant to be salespeople, but they are meant to be educators. If they can learn to switch their mindset to, I'm not selling, I'm doing my due diligence by doing a complete diagnostic and giving this customer everything that I find.
Yeah.
Based on my knowledge base of learning this industry, this is all the things that I see that could potentially cause you issues, and this is what I recommend.
Yeah.
You're just educating.
Yeah.
That's all you're really doing. And if you can become a good educator, customers will make the best decision that's right for them.
Yeah. And that's I don't think that there is a switch that can be thrown that would change somebody's mindset from one to other, right? Of being able to go like, hey, I'm still worried about what I'm about to present, and I need to thoroughly educate, and being able just to jump that void without what, right? And that's what ultimately training comes down to, in my mind, is a process.
Correct.
Right? And if education is the number one focus of what we're trying to do, like, what is the best process to give you the best opportunity to educate the customer is, I don't know, as good as you can, right?
Yeah. Well, I teach them to the bare minimum of repair. There's some things in this industry you have to do to do the next step. Let's say the system looks like it's low on refrigerant. But if you go in there and the evaporator coil, which is the part inside the home, if you go inside and the evaporator coil is completely caked with dust, house dirt, pet dander, they'll get caked to where they can't breathe. Well, you can't charge that system. You don't know that system is low on refrigerant. One of the things that would frustrate me the most when I was a tech would go behind techs that put refrigerant in a system, but they didn't crawl in their crawl space and look, because they didn't want to crawl in their crawl space. Yeah. But they did a disjustice to that customer, because their job was to do a full system diagnostic for what they paid for in the beginning, which would have been to go through their entire system and let them know anything. Yeah. And so I would get frustrated, because then I'm coming back and I can't, the customer's already upset. I'm having to try to save the customer, not throw the technician under the bus because he works with me. He's a teammate. Yeah. And still give this customer what they deserve. Yeah. So that kind of stuff is a pain. So what I'm teaching these guys is like, it's your job to do the diagnostic, no matter what it takes. $89 diagnostic, your job is to look through everything. Yeah. Check it all. Yeah. And then educate the customer to the best of your ability. And give them options. This is your minimum repair. This is, what I recommend. And then this is like, if you want all the bells and whistles, then we can do all this to prevent whatever happened possibly from happening in the future. Those kind of things.
Well, I think this goes back to the original point, which is they want to solve problems. And when you're new as a tech, or even when you're a tech that's been at it for 30 years, right? Sometimes there is just that, I want to solve the problem and move on to the next call. And what can happen in those is you're diagnosing symptoms, not the actual problem, right? And that's why process becomes so much more important, right? Because you follow the steps no matter what. And sometimes just over the next hill or over the next ridge, you see something that completely changes the picture of the terrain that you're marching down. And again, if I sound like a broken record, it's process. It's all 100%. Process. So how is an individual, right, back to the Steph Curry analogy, taking 500 shots a day, like, how do I as a tech get better at the process?
Practicing the process.
Yeah.
And you get the opportunities every day. You also have a wife or a girlfriend or a husband that
or
you
a dog
can,
or a dog.
But I mean, you can practice sections of it at your home.
Yeah.
You can stand in front of a mirror and practice so you can see what yourself looks like, which is pretty uncomfortable as well.
Yeah.
I mean, to watch yourself communicate the process is pretty uncomfortable, but there's ways to practice. We're giving you the calls to practice. Like I tell them, you don't have to be perfect. Like I said in the beginning of this, you do not have to be perfect, because the customer isn't expecting you to say something. Yeah. But start practicing it. Role play it.
Well, even just the credibility statement. Like, even if you've got just one part that you can work on that you get just nailed. Yeah. And then you start progressing, right?
Which that portion's one of the biggest portions, because I teach the guys, like, up until that point, you're working to get the homeowner to talk as much as humanly possible, and you say very little.
Yeah.
You're getting them to open up and feel comfortable with you. And then by the time you get to the settling anxieties portion and you drop the credibility statement, it's your turn to talk at that point, and that's for you to make them feel comfortable with you. But up until then, everything you're doing is trying to get them to communicate.
Yeah.
You speak very little and have your ears open and let them talk as much as possible.
All right, so help me understand, because again, that's a confusing part, because most people, when we talk about what we're supposed to be educating, not selling, right? We're educating.
Correct.
Don't spend what's not ours. Why does it matter if I'm the one educating that I'm talking less?
Because people are more comfortable when they're the ones talking. Yeah. So you get someone's defense down when you allow them to talk. And it's no secret, people are super going to be on guard when they're letting some stranger in their home.
Yeah.
So the quicker you can get them comfortable with you and talking, the more comfortable that they'll feel.
Yeah.
So I teach that. Very little comments, you want them to communicate with you. So that's why we go through the questionnaire and ask them questions to let them feel comfortable talking to you. And then once it's your turn to talk, then you give them the whole spiel of who you are, why they can trust you to be there, what they can expect from you, and then talk about the financial side of it, like what the expectation would be of price.
Yeah. And I think, look, that's an important thing. I don't know how many of you that are listening have heard us talk about this before, but like when we did the rebrand, like one of the main reasons for that was shifting the dynamic of who this brand speaks to, from transactional customers, people who literally just want to spend the least amount of money with the least amount of interaction with a company as possible, versus relational type customers who truly are looking for the best solution for themselves and their families, right?
Correct.
So part of that relational customer that we're out there marketing to is looking for you to provide value in a relationship.
Building a relationship.
Exactly. So one of the best ways to build value is understand who you're building value for, and that involves building a relationship with the person.
That's the whole purpose of our process now, is to give a customer consistent experience.
Yeah.
I joke with the guys all the time, but people go to Chick-fil-A for a reason, because they know what they're going to get no matter where they're at in the country.
Yeah.
If they go to Chick-fil-A, they know the experience they're going to get.
Yeah.
We're trying to create that same experience for our customer and give them a process to build a relationship so they can trust that whenever they call Dad, they know what product they're going to get, which is our people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not necessarily our services, but the type. Yes, they want our services, but the type of people that we're going to send and the experience that they're going to have from Call Dad.
Correct. They know that there's going to be consistency.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So, what would you consider success out of the program in what you're doing on Thursdays? Is it that when you come back to the location, people are more excited to do role playing? Is it that they're bragging about, where they have been able to find success, or they're coming to you with where they found problem? Like, how are you judging success?
I think it's going to be a little bit of all of it. I mean, we already seen Jackson, for instance, texted Brian with, I'm following the process, and the results are proof, right?
Yeah.
But I think that'll be some of it. I think what'll happen is we'll have guys that'll be outliers that'll start following the process right away and dive right in and see success, and then you'll get other guys looking at those guys wondering, hey, what are you doing? And it'll be, I'm just following the playbook because it's tried and true. Because that's what happened to me. I just followed the playbook, and all of a sudden I became a decent technician. Customers trusted me. The best part of it was I started following this process, and customers would call in and request me because I built a relationship. And all too often technicians get in the mindset of, I'm just here to fix something, and they go in and they Okay, is that your outdoor units out there? Okay, well, I'll go look at it. And they come in. Well, your problem's this, and this is how much it's going to cost. And the customer says, okay. Well, at the end of the day, the customer is not going to remember. They're not even going to remember who they called last time. Yeah, maybe they're happy they got air conditioner. Somebody came out and fixed it, but it's like, hey, who did we call last time? Yeah. We're trying to build an experience for the customer to where they're like, hey, Call Dad is awesome. Like the technician, whoever the technician was, I want that technician to come back to my home because he's a rock star. Because that's what we want.
Yeah, and that's what they're looking for out of the brand. And back to your earlier point on the, sorry for the morbid analogy, but on the heart attack versus cancer, it's like, who are they going to be mad at if something goes wrong?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. If it breaks in a month from now because you felt like you didn't need to offer them that their blower reel was completely caked and they needed to have it cleaned because it was putting a strain on the blower motor, but you didn't tell them, and then you come back out there and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, your blower motor, your blower wheel's caked. It took out your blower motor because of the strain it was putting on it. Yeah. And you didn't tell them that. Well, you were just here a month ago. Yeah. Why didn't you tell me that was an issue?
Or
I could have taken care of it then.
Maintenance or, you know, something else, right?
No, and I'm a big advocate for cleaning systems. I mean, efficiency ratings, everything tells you that systems requirements, and you should keep them cleaned and maintained. And homeowners aren't educated on that stuff. Yeah. Like most time you mention maintenance, and they're like, "You're supposed to have this thing maintained." Like I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean.
All right, so to answer that question, then you view what you think will ultimately get critical mass and success in this is the few people that it's working for will start to show up and say, hey.
The people that buy in.
Yeah.
Because I think you're still going to have, you already are seeing it, but I still think you're going to have guys that are like, yeah, I come to the training, but I don't really believe in it. That's too much work. I don't want to put that effort in. And then they'll start seeing that guys do like it, and the customer, and they can start getting more customer reviews, and they're like, man, this is really awesome. Also, to your point, when I go back around this second time, I think I also notice it in role playing who's been working at it. Yeah, I mean, you'll know right away if they feel more comfortable and rolls off their tongue pretty easily and they don't miss steps. Yeah. You'll be able to tell who's really putting it into action.
But the thing that's crazy to me, and I'm not saying this in a way of like I'm talking to some specific individual who's argued with me about this, but it's less work.
It is.
It's counterintuitive
to not do it.
Because following a process, having a process memorized, having consistency is so much less work than kind of bumbling through randomly, and every situation is different. Correct. Because the solution may be different, but every situation is the same when you have a process.
Mm-hmm. And when you don't follow a process, you're just lost at every call. Like every call is different, but you're not following a process. You're not creating a consistency for the customer, and the customer experience is the number one.
Yeah. All right, so I'm brand new tech. I just went through your first class, and then afterward I come up to you and I go, hey Derik, man, you just wasted 4 hours of my day. I could have done 2 calls by now. Like, why am I doing this?
Well,
what would you say to me?
What would I say in that moment?
Yeah.
Probably say you're probably not a good fit for our company. Because if you spent
get out,
if you spent if you spent 4 hours of me with the guy with the class that I teach, you can tell that these guys really understand, and they understand why you would want to do a process like this.
All right. So I didn't spend 4 hours. I'm coming to the class and I'm thinking, man, 4 hours. I'm gonna rephrase the question until you answer it.
All right.
Like, why should I give a shit?
Because it'll change.
Excuse my language. But like, why should I give a crap as a tech to waste time training when there's customers who need me at their house?
I got an easy answer for you. It'll change your life financially.
How so?
Because if you follow this process and become an educator over feeling like a salesperson, then customers will buy from people that they like. And not because it's not what they need, it's because you take the time to build value and educate them, and they'll buy what they actually need which will increase your income.
Yeah. So you're telling me with practice I can get financial stability?
Yes.
Does it act like we rehearse that?
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right. I think a lot of times people are short-sighted in what is self-serving. And again, back to this whole practice dynamic. It's just...
I still educate myself.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad right now, and that's a really good book.
Yeah.
I mean, makes you realize that Maxwell says that your brain, you got to continue that's the one thing that you can never invest too much in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the knowledge. But 4 hours is nothing for you to come in and change your career.
Yeah.
As long as you implement it.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Anything else in the world of training?
I don't think so. I'm enjoying it. Like, it's really fun for me. And these guys seem like they're really taking it in. So I'm hoping Columbia and Charleston brings the same thunder tomorrow.
Yeah. Again, with what we've done, where we've come from, and I think, what's the true name of it? Dad's Really Cool Playbook.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a cool piece of information that you should have on your side and memorized in every opportunity, just because, again, we're giving you the playbook for success.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And this is not just monetarily, but also just in order to progress in life, just having systems and processes and all that type of thing down, it will pay dividends.
Correct.
So
100%.
Playbook's where it's at, people. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, 100%.
So we should title this thing.
Playbook's where it's at. You're going to go ahead and name it before it ever gets edited.
All right, you want to take us out on some Eminem? What do you want to do here?
Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
All right, I appreciate it, Derik.
All right, thank you.
We'll catch up with y'all soon. Keep up with his training. This man is bringing the fire when it comes to playbook training, and he will be in your market soon. Enjoy.